Good morning, it's Mark Bossert here with Top Local Rankings. We're here with Mr. Bernie Pawlik of Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver, Vancouver's top best auto service experience. How you doing today, Bernie?
I'm doing really well.
So we're going to talk about Ford 6-liter diesel, something we've talked about a few times before. You seem to work on a few of these. This is a 2006. What was going on?
Well, this vehicle had a coolant leak, blown head gaskets, which is not a surprise since it's a pretty common issue, and I know we've talked about these in the past. Yeah, there was the engine was blowing a lot of smoke, and occasionally when we went to start it, it actually wouldn't turn over. The engine was hydro-locked. That's a condition that happens when you get a fluid inside the engine cylinder, and as the cylinder, as you crank the engine over, the cylinder moves up to compress the air, but it's actually trying to compress liquid, which doesn't work very well. The engine won't turn. So fortunately with this engine, sometimes you can just crank it a bit and it'll eventually blow the coolant out. So this is a pretty severe head gasket leak for one of these engines.
So there was a lot of coolant leaking into the cylinders?
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's what happens with the head gasket. When it blows, it usually blows coolant into the cylinder. When it's in an early stage, it'll usually just, a small amount will go in. But this one, there was quite a lot of coolant, like a lot more than usual. I'll just share a photo here because this is kind of an interesting thing to look at. Let's get the screen share up here. Are we you seeing this?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so that's a picture when we start dismantling things. We remove the turbocharger and the exhaust pipes, and that view is looking into the right exhaust manifold where the pipe comes out, goes into the turbocharger, and that green liquid there is all antifreeze. Now that's it's just pooled inside the exhaust manifold. Definitely shouldn't be there. That should only be air in that area. So that's kind of it was interesting finding that. It was a pretty severe leak for this type of thing.
So is that indicating that that exhaust is filled right to the catalytic converter almost?
Well, in this case, it'll fill the exhaust system like further down in the pipes with antifreeze, and I imagine we've just got the vehicle finished, got to go for a final road test today, but I imagine there'll probably still be a fair bit of smoke burning out because when it starts pumping coolant like that, sometimes it takes quite a while. And antifreeze tends to burn very white, so it can make kind of an ugly, kind of an embarrassing drive until it's all burnt out.
So did you just do the head gaskets, or was there more that you had to be done?
Well, we did more on this engine. I mean, usually there is more to be done. We've talked a lot about these in the past, and anyone who knows about 6-liter diesel, if you look at the list, there's a lot of things that go wrong with it. So we basically did all the fix-ups, the bulletproofing on this engine. We changed the engine oil cooler, with the original Ford cooler. We resealed the oil pump and all the engine oil cooler seals. There's a lot of seals that tend to leak. There's a fitting called an STC fitting on the high pressure oil system. They tend to blow apart, and they can. We've never seen it, but that does happen. So we replaced it with an upgraded piece. There's oil stand pipes that can leak, so we replaced those. We put studs in instead of head bolts, so that ensures the head gaskets are attached a little more firmly than with bolts. What else will we do? We did bulletproof EGR cooler as well, because the EGR coolers tend to leak on these things too. So it basically fixed everything up, bulletproofed it, and it should be good for quite a long time.
So how assured would an owner be if they do all that work on the head gaskets and all the other stuff you guys did that the gaskets aren't going to blow again?
Well, you can be pretty much assured they won't, but, I say but, things do, there are a lot of things that do go wrong with these engines, and, it really depends on how you drive them. I think, from what I've noted, it seems like the people who put heavy loads in the vehicles, that tends to be harder on the head gaskets. If you do any performance modifications, you're risking the head gaskets going. If you just drive it like a drag racing car, you're risking the head gaskets going. So so you could, if you're driving normally, gently, not hauling massive loads all the time, it'll probably last forever. The bulletproof cooler for sure lasts way longer than the Ford cooler. We've never replaced one after doing it. The head studs, you know, help keep everything down, but you know, damage can still occur if you abuse it.
Sure. So, do you have any tips for owners of a 6-liter diesel that might help keep the repair costs down?
Well, certainly regular maintenance, as with any vehicle. You know, regular oil changes, change your fuel filters, flush the coolant when needed. That's not needed too often, but just keeping on top of those kind of things. You know, avoid performance modifications on these vehicles. I mean, if you do, you know, your stuff will happen, you know, and you'll be paying more money. And just drive a little more gently, especially if you have a heavy load. If you're hauling a trailer or something, don't go bombing up hills as fast as you can. Just go a little gently and gently, or however I get that out, and it'll last longer. So that's kind of the thing. I mean, it's really a pretty well-built engine. The bottom end, it's just, you know, has a few defects that unfortunately are costly. But if you take care of it, it'll generally last quite a long time.
I don't know if I've asked you this. Do they actually manufacture this motor anymore?
No. I believe the last time they installed it was in the 2010 Ford vans. And interestingly enough, you know, we've never done really much in the way of repairs on vans other than a few fuel injectors and things like that, but never head gaskets. And I think, you know, it may well be that vans, they just don't get loaded as heavily as pickup trucks, or they're subject to as much abuse. So it's not to say that they don't blow head gaskets, and it would be a lot more of a job to do it in the van. But yeah, 2010 was the last they used it in the van. I think 07 was the last they used it in the pickup trucks. So yeah, it's not made anymore. Long since surpassed by the 6.8 liter and then the 6.7.
So if you're the owner of a 6-liter diesel in Vancouver area and you need to get it fixed or maintained, the guys to see are Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver. You can check out their website, pawlikautomotive.com, or call to book an appointment, 604-327-7112. Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark.